don't call me Jiggy when I'm home, they call me Snowman here. We ain't never home, but treat the city like the base, yeah. You know where to look if you're looking for the wave, yeah. Looking for the...
What it do? What's going down? What's happening? Welcome to another episode of EuroSteppin podcast. Today we coming at y'all a little bit different this week. Snow, how you doing, man? How's Seattle treating you?
Man, I'm good. I don't know if you can see between my blinds, but it's actually not too rainy. I'm lying. It's raining. It's raining.
I know you're lying. I know you're lying. That's how I go up there. But anyway, let's get into the show. Different show, Snow. What you think about this one?
Man, I'm excited. I think we got an opportunity to really educate some folks today, but have a little fun too, right? We got women on the show today. For our first time ever, we got women on the show today. Hello, ladies. How's everybody doing, everybody?
Hello.
Michelle.
Hi.
Michelle, how you doing? Aaron, how you doing?
I'm good. Chilling. Trying to survive.
I heard that. So the first thing, ladies, as we get started, I mean, the elephant in the room is obviously COVID, right? So I want to start with Michelle. Can you just maybe touch on a little bit how COVID has kind of impacted just your year? Yeah.
Well, my experience with COVID would probably be a little bit different than the European experience because my husband is currently in the NBA. So we had a insane year with the NBA being shut down. Then we actually went into the bubble. Me and my children went into the bubble with him. He played for the Celtics. And then going through free agency during COVID, signing with a new team during COVID, balancing that with like my real life, being a mom, me being in law school, my children being in school. So it's been tumultuous. That's the only way to describe it, honestly.
Right. Aaron, can you touch a little bit on your experience with COVID so far?
Yeah, sure. We were actually in Poland last year. Chris was playing with Tehran. And the season, they ended up canceling the season fairly early. And we went home and played the waiting game. We were in lockdown. It was a little bit different for us because my husband has multiple sclerosis, and we decided that he should change medication. So he was changing medication while being in lockdown, and then signing to Turkey, a place where he, first got diagnosed with MS. So it's been very tough for us mentally, but I mean, we're getting through it.
Rita, I know you guys were just when I say you guys, I'm referring to you and your kids, were just in Greece. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with COVID?
So we are with the same team we were last year. So we went into lockdown in March, kind of stayed for a couple of weeks and then decided to come home. So this was the longest period that we as a family have been home together. So that was pretty nice, if there's a positive of COVID. And then we went back to the same team and everything started smooth. Restaurants were open, beaches were open, we were living. And our kids were in school. My daughter is in first grade in Greece, was. My son was in preschool, everything was normal. And then, that second spike came and that kind of changed everything. And for COVID, our family has been going through a drastic change because we typically travel with my husband. We are there year round. We come home for, a week visit, 2-week visit, but we ride with him the whole time. And then as the lockdown happened in Greece, they take it very serious. So we couldn't leave the apartment. You gotta sign this little paper permission slip to ask the government permission to go to the grocery store, to go on a walk. I mean, yeah, you can't leave the house without your permission slip. So initially we were gonna just stick it out. And then, you're stuck in this, I don't even know, maybe 1,000-square-foot apartment with 4 people and 2 kids running and jumping. We're on the 9th floor. Neighbors don't like us. They're complaining because the kids make noise. So ultimately, my husband and I decided that in this situation, it was best to come home. So this is 3 weeks at home now. And so again, we usually travel with my husband. And so this is new for me, this solo parenting thing, missing my spouse. It's a little challenging, but I also really like the freedom that we have that I think people don't realize. I don't have to sign a permission slip to go to the grocery store. I can do whatever I want, essentially.
Sure. So, Aaron, I kind of wanted to jump into some of the more fun things that happen in Europe, because some folks think that it's just all dread and it's all misery and it's all doom and gloom and dark, right? I don't think it's that. So can you just kind of talk about some of your early, more happier moments in Europe, some of the things that happened for you that you experienced with your partner, and that just, I think people would like to know that Europe offers some positive opportunities and things. So can you talk a little bit about the experience from your side?
Definitely. I mean, Chris and I decided to stay together as a unit when I was pregnant with our firstborn, our son. He's 7 now. I was actually coaching college basketball, women's college basketball at the time. So having my job and his job during the same season, like it was torture when I was pregnant. So once I had our son, we decided to go, with him overseas. And my first place out of the country by myself with a newborn was France, Lyon, France. And that was probably one of the best experiences I had. I mean, I didn't know how to drive a stick, so I was stuck on the metro. I'm super paranoid, so like my curfew is sunset, so I'd be like running from the train station to our apartment. But I mean, I was gone all the time. I had a really, really, really awesome vet wife that was on the team, and she schooled me on everything, like where to get cheddar cheese. That's a big thing. I mean, where, oh, you're on mute.
I said, time out. I don't want to cut you off, okay? But I do. You just threw out a phrase that not everybody is familiar with. I saw all the wives react to it. Folks on our show won't know the vet wives. Like, what is a vet wife?
Okay, so Uche in Samu, I'm probably saying his name wrong, and Yvette is going to kill me. But he was the big man on our team in Asvel, and his wife had been overseas for probably 10 years at that point, or close to it. And she had been in France for a while. Her kids were in school. She just had the lay of the land. Like she knew, okay, we can't get this for this holiday, or our American holiday is coming up, so we got to go 30 minutes outside the city to get, specific things that we are accustomed to, in our American culture. And just, don't go over here, and, this is how you drive a stick, anything, everything, even when you're at games, like, okay, those ones over there, why they're here. Just everything you need to know. A vet wife will tell you. And if you're a newcomer, and you have a vet wife on the team, you better find a way to be her best friend.
It's okay to call them groupies. Rita, listen, Rita, you being the vet wife, right? Can you talk a little bit about your most pleasurable experience in the time that you've been in Europe?
Stephen and I really try to be places for a long period of time. I mean, if you look at the places Stephen's been, he typically stays. And a lot of that has to do with like immersing ourselves into the culture and being a part of the people. And I think the most enjoyable part for us is really getting to know other cultures, watching our daughter become fluent in Greek. I mean, it's incredible, like watching her speak and interact with her friends. And, being overseas can be tough. So one reason why we immerse ourselves is to make it normal for us instead of it being a dreaded thing. I know that I've had many conversations with women who are struggling. And so being over there and having that perspective of this is home right now makes it enjoyable. We've done a little bit of traveling, but mostly we really just try to stay where we are and really become a part of that area.
Thank you for that. Michelle, can you kind of touch on, we know you're back and you're in the league, but can you talk a little bit about your best experience from your time overseas?
I actually had a lot of great experiences. Brad was blessed to play on some really good teams, win a lot of championships. He won a lot of accolades all throughout Europe before he came back to the NBA. And I think the basketball side has a huge effect on joy, a city or a country, a situation. It affects you in so many ways. So for me, I enjoyed every country. We played in 4 different countries differently, depending on how old my kids were, depending on what was going on in the world, depending on what was going on with basketball. But overall, our best, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Can you tell everyone which countries those were as well?
He played in Istanbul, Turkey. He played in Limoges, France. He played in Bamberg, Germany. And he played in Pistoia, Italy. So we've been all over, all different types of countries, cultures. It's been intense. But my best memory, my favorite place to live was probably Germany. My son was fluent in German. He went to kindergarten and first grade in Germany. My daughter was small, and it was just very family oriented. It was very Western culture, so easy to live, a lot of English speaking. We had an army base. Nothing's better than having an army base close by when you're overseas. Nothing's better than just stepping foot on the American soil, eating some greasy Popeyes or something. It's the best. So Germany definitely for me has a special place in my heart.
Right. Okay.
So I have a question for you ladies. The very first time that you was coming to Europe, what were you thinking? How was you feeling? Were you guys nervous to come? Was you anxious? Did you know what to expect? Either one of you can start off. Aaron, you can start off.
I don't know. I think because I played basketball and I'm just in love with basketball, like it was a different feeling for me. Like, you can't tell me that I'm not about to start the season. Like, he's the point guard, but I'm the point guard, like, for real. So it's kind of like I was just preparing myself like it was my season. So I think I was more excited, especially like I don't really know about other countries, but I know we spent a lot of time in Italy. So we were able to go, like, families and stuff. You can go to practices. I mean, pre-COVID and all this craziness, but I was at practice every day. I was getting rebounds before the practice started, and he'd take us to the gym like 2 hours before the game, and I'm rebounding on the court, before the game starts, before the rest of his team comes over. So for me, it's always like an excitement, like I'm about to be on the court. I know that probably sounds insane, but
no. So you were with him shooting in the gym. Oh. No, so Michelle, can you talk about your experience?
So probably much like the other two ladies, my husband and I have been together for a very long time. So we had our first child in college. So my experience with finding out that we were going to go overseas was probably more stressful than anything. It was the NBA lockout year, and there was a lot of NBA players in Europe, so the jobs were bad. We ended up in a situation that wasn't horrible, but it wasn't stable. and we ended up not staying the whole year. So that was stressful. And I had already been to Europe with school. I had something with school in high school. I went all through Europe and Africa. So I wasn't scared to go overseas. But going overseas unmarried, number one, with a child is a little bit scary. And actually, my husband's family, his cousin, he had one cousin who called me before we went and was like, do not go with that man. You are not married to him. You better be careful. You don't know what you're getting yourself into. His own family said, oh, no, don't do this. So, but of course, like we all do, you know, for love, we do a lot of strange things. So I packed up my stuff, and my 2-year-old, he wasn't even 2 yet. He turned 2 that year, and went to Europe. So it was scary, but it ended up being good, because one thing that you'll notice, and you guys probably know, like when it comes to going overseas, it really makes you closer, and you only have each other to really bounce off of and go through stuff with. So while it was scary, it really kind of solidified our bond and our, like, you know, togetherness as a family. So that was cool, but it was hella scary. I don't know if I'm allowed to say hella, but hella scary.
Oh, you are. I'm from the West Coast, and we say hella.
Hella. I'm from the East Coast. Say it over here too. But yeah, it was scary. And I didn't have any veteran wives. Just to touch on Aaron's point, I mean, at this point, it's crazy. I would be considered the veteran wife, but I never really had veteran wives with me in those early years, for sure. And I was moving country to country, which is terrifying for a bunch of different reasons. So yeah, I guess for me, it would be a little bit more scary, but I thugged it out. It was fine. It worked out. But
speaking on veteran wives, Rita, can you talk about some of the game that you're lacing some of these younger wives with? Because I know for a fact, even early this year, you had a really young wife on the team with you. Can you talk a little bit about how you're able to kind of help her through some of these early stages? What kind of game are you giving her?
You know, I try to be just really honest. I think people think it's going to be, you know, peaches and cream and great. And you have to realize that there's going to be times that you're not going to be paid on time. Your husband ain't going to play. Coach is going to dog him, and you're going to be mad. And the grocery stores are closed. They ain't got this. And so I think for me, I really try to just be honest and authentic. I don't try to paint a different picture. You know, the WEG that you're talking about right now, you know, she's going through a challenging time with switching teams, waiting for a new job. And we still talk every day now that I'm home. I just think it's important that we come together, because at the end of the day, we're put in a situation to—
I'm out. The people you're referring to, he actually signed today. So he's
okay. There we go. And, you know, and that's difficult, you know, when we're talking about that situation. I don't know if I can say the name or whatever.
Let's steer clear of that. Let's steer clear. Let's steer clear of the names.
So, you know, but like, they're like family. There's situations where they're teammates, and there's situations where they're family. And I think that's kind of challenging sometimes, because, you know, you are protective of situations that happen, and you know, talking to wives, and then, you know, I'm currently still in the situation, and my husband's still currently in the situation, and it's complex. But sometimes you have to separate that in order to support your husband and kind of keep him on the right path. So it can be complicated, but I think it's best that wives really try to build some sort of relationship. Like, look, I know that you ladies can agree, you're not always going to get along with wives. Like, I've had situations where I was like, I ain't talking to that girl. Nope, she can go sit over there. That's fine. But, you know, at the end of the day, I really do try to support all women. However, like, at the end of the day, I'm not going to pretend I like somebody. I'm going to be respectful, but keep it pushing.
Right. So, Michelle, you being a vet wife yourself, you mind touching a little bit on some of the game you try to give? I'm sure you're not just saying, I ain't talking to her like Rita. No, I'm just playing. I'm just kidding. But what kind of game are you giving them when they're coming into these new situations and it's their first experience overseas? What kind of game are you giving them?
you know what's so interesting about this conversation is I have a little cousin. She is my second cousin, I guess, like a close cousin who dated a basketball player in college. And now she is a Eurowag, and she's I want to say 5 or 6 years younger than me.
Time out. That's another term.
What's a Euro wag? Like I'm a little bit too old for these new terminologies. You know, I
don't know what these are.
I don't know what a Euro wag is. I'm being honest with you.
She's a European wife and girlfriend, or wife or girlfriend. A wag is just like a term for a spouse of an athlete, whichever level you're on, dating, married, whatever.
So listen, I played 10 years in Europe. Dave, how long did you play in Europe?
14.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of a wag.
Y'all, all right, look, respectfully, #respectfully, y'all a little older, so respectfully.
Yeah. She's calling us old, Dave. She calling us old.
Respectfully.
No.
Might be a generational thing here, I'm not sure.
The disrespect, Dave, the disrespect.
But that term is something. Done. That term is one that we use often. At first, when I first was referred to as a wag, I was kind of like offended. Like, hold on, I'm Michelle. I don't even know what y'all are talking about. But it's actually something I've grown close to. It's a big part of my life. And I mean, me and Brad have been together for 12 years at this point. So like, I can't escape it. But to finish what I was saying, my cousin ended up going overseas with her then boyfriend, now fiance. They're about to get married, and they've been in some countries that I've been in. And so she called me for advice, and her mom called me freaking out, like, why is she doing this? I don't want them to do this. And I had to give her, somebody really close to me, advice. And basically I told her to lean on her spouse, like lean on him, tell him how you feel, let him tell you how he feels, because there's going to be a lot of ups and downs trying to get used to this lifestyle. It is a very, very difficult transition to go from college, especially if you played for like a major D1 school where they cater to you a lot, and go overseas to smaller countries, smaller teams. It's going to be a culture shock for him and you, because then he's going to come home and want to unload that on you. And you're struggling just to get used to being somewhere where people don't understand you. You're going to the grocery store, you don't know what you're buying. And you guys are trying to work that out as a young couple. So that's kind of the advice I gave, more like relationship, because I think the European WAG advice is more country specific, team specific. But as far as just being strong and being a strong woman and leaning on each other, especially while you don't have children, I think that's the best piece of advice you can give a young wife in this situation. Try to let the issues bring you together instead of like push you apart.
Get to something what you just said. Handle the initial culture shock that they have going into these different countries. When you came to your first country, what was your culture shock?
Where do you want me to start?
Start with Aaron.
Oh, Aaron, okay.
Mine was the personal space. That like drove me insane. And a little bit now to this day, I'm like, even during COVID, I'm like, okay, it's a sign, but that and the it's a good thing that a lot of European countries, they really embrace children. But sometimes they'll just pick your kid up and it's nerve-wracking. Like, are you about to run? Like, what are we doing here? Like, my kid has had dinner with another family I couldn't even barely say hi to. And they picked him up, put him in a high chair at their table and fed him. And CJ was drinking Coca-Cola at 2.5 because they gave it to him. So that would be my biggest thing.
Rita, what you got for us? I know you got some stories going on.
Honestly, there's like too many to count. But kind of going off the child thing, I just remember having Bailey in her little car seat and like they just want to come up and like kiss the babies. Like, what are you doing? Like, don't touch my children. And I'm not Black, my children are biracial, and the touching of the hair, and, you know, having to teach my child, please do not touch my hair. I mean, we literally practiced it so many times, and having conversations with her to make sure she knew, like, speak up. And then, you know, we've encountered living situations. I don't know if any of you have lived in Greece. There's some toilet situations. I mean, I'm not going to get into details about this, but you know, going with the WEG advice, I remember being at dinner this year, you know, pre-COVID for us in the summer, and there was a family from Olympiacos and then a couple of ours from Peristeri, and we're sitting there, and he's talking about he flushes flushable wipes, and I was like, bro, you can't even flush toilet paper. Like, what you doing? And he's over there texting the GM, and the GM's like, you can't flush toilet paper. And he's like, why the heck did they not tell us this? And just like this conversation that like people don't talk about because I think it's uncomfortable. But things that people should know, like, how are these teams not telling these families and men that are coming here? Because let me tell you, you do not want to wake up to a situation. Like, you do not want to wake up to a situation, because we woke up to a situation and I was in denial of the rule, and Steven's on the phone with the GM, and he's like, you got to tell Rita to stop flushing the toilet paper. And, you know, I had to learn my lesson, and it was horrible and traumatizing.
Time out. We cannot just brush over this situation. Okay, what we're not gonna do is the Will and Jada Smith thing. We're gonna dive into this. We can deal with this. I need you to.
We go straight shoot. We some straight shoot.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to tell us more about this situation.
Okay. So when you go to Greece, you can't flush the toilet papers. If you go into the restaurants, you'll see signs, but they're in Greek, they're not in English. So nobody really knows, but there's tall ass garbage cans that are like 4 feet tall in the bathrooms. And you're like, what? Why are these garbage cans so big? So, you know, you start to notice these things, but the team doesn't tell you. And one, I don't know if they're not telling you because they're embarrassed, or two, if they think it's normal. Like, it ain't normal to freaking take your toilet paper and put it in the trash can. Like, that's not normal. So there was a time at home that I started smelling something. So I kept lighting the candle, putting it in the bathroom. And Steven's like, why do you keep lighting the candle? I'm like, cause it has this like sewage smell. Like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm teaching a class, and he's gone with our son at the gym. Our daughter's at school, and I am just like smelling something horrific. Like, I can't explain to you guys. It was so bad. And I stand up, and it's everywhere, all over the apartment, everywhere. And so I'm like, I got to teach my class. I ain't teaching my class. I'm calling the GM. And, you know, fortunately, this team's really responsive. So they had somebody out there to clean, to pump, to handle the situation. I mean, I was crying.
One more time out. So when you said it is everywhere, I think you forgot the S-A.
Oh, it was shit everywhere. I mean, all over my kids' toys. Like, you don't understand. I was traumatized. But then it gets worse, because then I call Steven. And if you know Steven, he's really calm. And I'm like, babe, there's shit everywhere, all over the apartment. Get home now. Like, I can't handle this. So the team is very responsive. They get a cleaner. They clean it up. They throw everything away. They buy us new toys, new towels. Because I'm talking about, I'm throwing towels. I'm trying to I don't know what to do. But you guys, I didn't listen. I was really like, I can flush my toilet paper still. Like, they pumped it. Like, it's good now, right? Like, you know, it's like a septic tank. They emptied it. So Steven's like, they said not to flush toilet paper. I kept flushing it, and it happened again. So the team, again, paid for everything to get cleaned, and finally said, Rita, you got to stop flushing the toilet paper. Oh, can't hear you.
They said, Rita, you got to stop doing this shit.
To ask you a question, when you guys on your free time, let's say when your husband's not around, maybe when the children are sleeping, I know that's the children pretty much never sleeps, but whenever you can find time for yourselves, what do you do in that spare time? Like, do you do any extracurricular activities? Do you blog, write, rap? Rita, what do you do? I know you big. I heard that you're big in your communication circles.
So I actually work. So I work online. I teach English online. I've done it for like 3.5 years. I also admin the wife group. And that takes a lot of time because we have to screen people trying to join. Let me tell you, it's a lot of work. Got to screen posts and etc. So that, and then I like to run. I like to read. Right now, without my husband here, there's not much me time. But yeah, I work, I cook, I clean, real exciting things over here.
And once you get into a little bit about what you do, I know that you have a book or two that you have written.
Yeah, I am a blogger. I think I can call myself that. I actually contribute to a couple of blogs, and I wrote 2 books. And it's a series about a young basketball wag. All fiction. But I actually had the first book translated to Italian this year, just because we had spent so much time in Italy, and Italy is my second home. And I actually write for a sports blog in Italy still. So,
Michelle, what do you get into on your time to yourself?
Are we talking about European days or are we talking about now?
I mean, this is EuroSteppin, so I'd rather the European days,
I respect that. So depending on the country, I made some really close friends overseas, whether they were European women, like European wives or girlfriends, or American women that I would have never met before. And I used to travel with some of the women on the team. We travel around the country when our husbands were gone. When my husband played for a EuroLeague team, he was going a lot. There's a huge difference in the amount of free time you have if you just play for your country versus if you play Euro Cup, EuroLeague, Euro Challenge. I don't know all the other ones now. There's probably more. Yeah, in those busier leagues, I tried to do other things and take the kids to see the countries that we lived in. I worked out a lot overseas because I had free time. Yeah, just basically that, immersing myself in the culture. I really, really tried to experience every country that we lived in, whether it was the holidays, whether it was some vacation places that they're famous for. Like we went to the south of France. We went all through Italy. So we saw everything in Istanbul there was to see. Went down the Bosphorus a few times, like just any cool thing like that. That's what I like to spend my time doing. And I also went to school online when I was overseas. I got 2 degrees, and I had raised children and domestic stuff, did a lot of domestic stuff. So
downplay it. That's huge. We need y'all.
Facts, you do. Facts.
I don't have.
You know what I've noticed though, Snow, think about when we first started coming to Europe, there wasn't a lot of married couples. Like everyone was single on the team. Like now, like toward the end of my career, that's when things start really changing. Like more married couples was coming over because I didn't see it my first, I would say 5 to 6 years.
Well, Dave, to be honest, we were heathens.
They heathens too. What you talking about? That didn't change over the years.
You were the married ones in trouble. That's what it was.
I think you have to be married to a certain extent too when you go to Europe. I think that's the piece. Everybody has different personal beliefs that led them to get married. I think it got to the point with us personally, and a lot of people I know, that it was more advantageous, more easy, like it made it easier to live overseas being married, especially if you have children. I was Brad's wife before I ever said I do, because on the paperwork in Europe, when you have kids, it's no like baby mama. You ain't the girlfriend. You're his wife because you had his kids, and it's like a whole different experience. So that's kind of a reason that pushed us to get married young, being overseas. But I also didn't know a lot of wives overseas on the teams we played for specifically. So
That's a really good, that Michelle like hit the nail on the head. That's a really good point. Cause I know I was pregnant with our middle child, and Chris was about to sign, and I was like, I'm not getting held up at the airport for hours on end again. Like, I'm pregnant, I'm not trying to do this. And we just went to the courthouse and got married because it was just so much easier.
They tried to hold my son one time going through Germany. Well, I had both of my children. My daughter was a baby, and my last name hadn't changed at this point. Actually, I think we probably were just engaged and not married. That was probably a few months before we actually got married. And because we had different last names, that's not a thing in Germany. And the security questioned my son, and he was so little, he was scared. They were asking him, well, what's her name? Like, who is this woman? And he said, Michelle, and not mommy. And so they pulled us out of line. We missed our flight. We had to sit and do an interview in customs. So I had to prove he was my child. They were asking me for his birth certificate. I had his passport. It was insane, all because my last name wasn't the same. And that's a huge reason why women get married in these situations. It really helps. Not to say you're not in love and stuff. All that other stuff is fine. But there are some logistical benefits to being married, especially when you have kids. So.
No, that's good. I mean, that's actually like real game that these women need to know, right? Thank you for that. Now, some people call this the tea. I don't know what you guys call this. I'm not. But I want to get into some of the dirt. Can we talk about some of the Can we talk about some of the real things that happen in Europe? And now we don't gotta get too crazy and name names, but just some of the real experiences you've had that maybe weren't so pleasant. Maybe somebody didn't. Rita, it sounds like you got something you want to get off. So we're gonna start with you.
I mean, there's like a realm of things here, you know, like my mind is kind of spinning, like thinking about situations. I mean, I probably am not the only one that's been in the position where, you know, you got player A and he's got girlfriend 1, 2, 3, and 4 visiting at different times. And you're like, oh, I took a picture with girlfriend 2, girlfriend 3 is going to come over for dinner. So I got to take this picture down. A little uncomfortable.
No guys do that. I don't know what you're talking about. That's
right. And, you know, and I think everybody approaches this differently. I think everyone has to do what's best for them. But, you know, Steven has always told me, like, do not get involved. So I have the no involved situation over here. Just smile, cook dinner, drink a little wine, and I'm good. And then also I was, like I said, my mind was kind of spinning and I was thinking about, you know, the situations where, you know, teams aren't paying, you got A, B, C in your contract and you ain't getting none of that. And I think as women, like we get emotional about it. And like, you know, guys are a little bit more flexible. Like Steven's like, oh, it said a 2-bedroom apartment, but it's a studio. And I'm like, that don't work. And they're like, oh, the dining room is a room. The kitchen is a room. And, you know, for me, I am very like direct. I'm a little OCD. And so I'm like, we put this in the contract. It's in the contract. Like, why am I not getting it? And I think all the women here can probably assume that they've had things in their contract they never got, right? And so when I was younger, I was just so upset and like really diligent about it. And now I'm just like, okay, like it's not worth the battle. And you just have to realize that there's going to be things that don't happen. And to make it work, it's better just to kind of keep the peace. And I also have learned that the friendlier you are with the GM, like the more that gets done, honestly. Like in our situation right now, like they really respect our family. I mean, you got the GM of the team going to pick up my son from preschool and sending me videos of him eating a donut in the car, telling me everything's good. Like that's not happened on other teams before. And I think a lot of that has to do with how we approach it. Because initially I was a little bit more aggressive and where's this at? It's not like you didn't give it to us, it's in the contract. And, you know, maturing over the last 10 years, I've realized that you actually get more done when you approach it a little differently.
That's great information to share with folks. I mean, I think that approach is important. Not everybody's able. But I wanted to die, Aaron. I felt like you had something you wanted to get off because I saw your face when we first asked the question. So I want to give you an opportunity to jump in and tell your story.
Okay. So I feel like Chris is gonna kill me, but it's fine. It's fine. Like, so whenever every off season, like we went to Israel for a few months, and you know, everybody that I had spoken to, because I know a lot of female basketball players, and they all are like, you know, Israel is the best place to be. So, you know, everything is close. You can drive everywhere. The food is great. It's very, like, in the grocery stores, you can find everything. So we went to Israel. And I will say this, the culture of women is different in Israel. It's very different. I don't know if it's just, I think it's just basketball players. And in Israel, it's like catnip, you know? So I was definitely pregnant in Israel. So I'm hormonal. So I won't blame, you know, everybody, but I'll take an L for that. I was hormonal, but you know, Black men don't cheat, but it was surreal. Like we would be at a restaurant, and you know, the waitress would address Chris and act like I wasn't there, and you know, want to take a picture with Chris, and which is fine, but not when you're like grabbing his hand and trying to like put it on the back bottom of your waist, and I'm right here, you know, pregnant. So, I mean, there was a lot of calling my mom and crying on the phone.
Aaron, you got to go for what you want out here. You can't be mad at these women, can you?
I mean, look, I was right there. I'm not even saying like, you know, I'm not saying you can't shoot your shot, but geez, you know, I mean, Chris, one time he was so uncomfortable, like he came back in from like the bathroom and he was like, yo, this girl was like telling me to come over here. And she pointed to you and she was like, yeah, it's fine. I'm like, wow. Like, you know, but I mean, now that we're a few years out of that, and now that we have 3 kids, I'm like, hey, you know, Israel pops up out of his agent's mouth. Now I'm like, hey, you know, that's fine, whatever. Okay, I know what to expect. But nobody told me that when I got there. Nobody told me that. And I was in shock.
Michelle, your face says it all. so I'm all ears. Talk to us.
I have a reputation. I don't play like that. So I don't play like that at all, with no country, no women, period. Like, I set the tone when I go somewhere, and that's just that. Like, any woman that's that brave, no matter where she's from, is going to have a conversation, and she's going to understand me, whether she speaks English or not. So I don't play like that. Not that Aaron does. I have heard those stories about Israel. I have a very close friend whose husband played in Israel, and she used to send me the messages he would get, like, just randomly on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. Women used to send their coochie through the mail.
Hey, but the women are beautiful in Israel, right?
They're gorgeous. That's why I'm like, you got to do all that? Like, that's too much.
And naked all the time at the beach.
Yeah, that's a thing. That is a thing. That is a thing. And in like February. But go ahead, Michelle.
I don't have too much tea. Like I said, I'm the type of person that I get a reputation quick on teams. So maybe, and my husband is like kind of, I'm not gonna say he's weird, but he's not like all in everybody's face. He doesn't play anybody too close. He's not Joe. We say Joe in the Northeast. He's not like, hey, yeah, what's up? He know, especially if I'm around, he is short with these women. So I don't play like that. But you know, it's the same stuff like everybody else talks about, multiple women coming to see the guys. I mind my business, and that's that. If it's not my man or somebody really, really close to me, and even then I'm like, you you know, it's just that I've been a part of this life for so long. I was a teenager when we started dating. So college, nothing can top the crazy stuff that happened in college. So going overseas, it was just like the next chapter. Now the NBA, next chapter. It's the same stuff everybody knows about. And regular men cheat, broke dudes cheat. So let's clear the air about that, because men are men, and women who are loose are women who are loose. And that's just that. So I don't have any specific tea. Just generally, it's the same stuff everywhere you go, no matter what. And my advice to these young women is to set the tone at the beginning.
Heard you. So go ahead, Dave.
Can I say congratulations for ruining all the future husbands' chances of ever going to play in Israel? Congratulations, guys.
No, it's nice. It's nice. It's just, you got to tell the wife what to expect. That's not something you need to walk in blindly to. That I would have liked to warn you.
Aaron, so basically what I hear you saying is the family that Rita was speaking of earlier about,
No.
I should have probably told Rita where he was going before he signed today, right?
Oh no. Israel. Look, it's a beautiful country. I have Israeli women friends. They're very nice, but just the basketball culture there is real. It's real, and you got to just be ready for that. Just, I mean, like Michelle said, like everywhere, it's like that. But I don't know. I just wasn't expecting that. Everybody was like, it's very religious. It's, this, that, and the other. So that came out of left field for me.
Sure. No, I got you. Dave, is there anything else you want to touch on before I get to this?
No, I mean, get to your question. Seems like you're holding something, but you want to get it out. Get it out. Get it off your chest.
No, you know what? I decided I'm not going to turn it up. I decided that's probably. I'm not going to turn it up because I feel like, okay, you know what? Let's just have this conversation. Let's just do it. Michelle, I need to know. I really need to know, because I'm feeling your energy, and I just really need to know if your hands have ever graced the face of a woman in Europe. I need to know. I just need to know.
No, not the face. No, I've grabbed a woman once or twice. We've gotten to things in the club. Actually, interestingly enough, the most volatile and violent situation that ever happened with women and men and like wives versus groupies was in a club in Italy. And the husband was the one who went crazy because one of the groupies was mad. We was getting into it. We was mixy with these groupies, was trying to get in the VIP. And my husband wasn't there. I was out. He was with the kids. We used to do this thing, switch and let people, we would let each other go out when, there was some big event. Anyway, he wasn't even there. Oh, wait, maybe I'm lying. I think he might have been there for this fight. Anyway, the one of the groupies was mad because the wife was like, what are you doing here? Who are you? Who do you even know? And her and her friends started getting attitudes. So, we got a little mixy with them. And then they went out the VIP, reached around to the girl standing next to me, one of the wives, and unzipped her dress completely. Like she had a zipper from the back of her neck up all the way to her butt crack. And so before she could even jump over the couch to the girl, her husband threw a drink at the girl. Oh, my God, it went crazy in the club. It was wild. But no, like it's stuff like that. Actually, I feel like Americans in general, and people especially, like depending on what culture you are in America, we're a little bit more mixier than a lot of these other European women are. So it doesn't really need to even escalate. And you don't want to get locked up overseas anyway. So let me put that out there for whoever's listening. Don't put your hands on anybody overseas because things can go left quick. So no, I have never put my hands on any woman's face, but I've definitely had a couple direct conversations and have had to tap a few chicks on the shoulder aggressively. And that's that.
Fair enough. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Are there any, we usually ask every player that comes on the show this question, and I know that you ladies should be able to answer the same question. While being in Europe, what was maybe the wildest or craziest thing that you've seen or experienced? Like, we've got stories where people seen bombs go off in the city and on the basketball court. People were shocked by, some of the toilet situations that's in the ground that they see in Europe. What was maybe some of the craziest things that you've experienced?
We'll start with Aaron.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to not have like super, super wild things happen to us. I mean, event wise, I mean, some wild stuff has happened. Like, we don't get paid and they come up with these crazy excuses. But I think on the court, one of the wildest things that I witnessed, it was our first year in Italy, and Chris was he was in the D League and he signed to Pesaro, and they needed, they were trying to reload. It was probably like January, maybe February, that time where teams are scrambling because they're not trying to get relegated. It was the second division. So, we were going to stay in America, stay in the D League, but I Googled Pesaro and I was like, it's on the water. Come on, let's just go. So we ended up going, and he played on a team, and it was crazy because like at that time, I mean, the top teams in Italy were like the top teams. It wasn't no like beating them. They had a lot of solid teams. And so we ended up being tied for last place or something like that. And the last game of the season came down to the bottom team. So whoever was going to win was going to stay up, and whoever lost was going down. So leading up to the week, Pesaro is a very small town. It's on the water, like I said. It's in central Italy. Basketball is life there. They had a lot of amazing players, American players throughout their history. So like, even like the babies know about the games, like it's serious. And, I'm walking around town and usually everybody's really nice. Hey, Aaron, hey, like nobody's really speaking, everybody's kind of on edge. And one of the young players, I saw him like at the beach one day. I had CJ out and we're just running around, and he's like, yeah, I told Chris you guys might want to get out of town for the game. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm not gonna miss the last game of the season. Like, we're not making the playoffs. No, I'm gonna watch the game. And he's like, no, I think you might want to get out of town because it gets crazy. It gets crazy. And it was like the most insane thing. The game day, like the town is tiny. There probably were like 20 police. They had brought police in from another city. Like the fans, they were mad because it was a home game. So our team didn't offer as many tickets. And like the fans of the other team, who was it? Caserta, I think. They were there like 5-6 hours before the game. Like you can hear them. I'm in the apartment and I hear them like chanting throughout the city. Like it was the craziest thing. Thank goodness we won. And so they were like treating everybody like gods, but he was like, the teammate was like, yeah, if we would have lost, like they would have, thrown shit on your car and just been like so mad and crazy. And so, but seeing the other team, like they were trying to bogart the court. They were trying to fight other fans, like, because they lost, because they were going down to second division. So that was insane to me. Like, I was like, wow, like, do y'all have money going on the game? It was just crazy.
No, it's amazing how emotionally attached they are to each win and loss. It's incredible. Michelle, can we dive into your story?
Just to piggyback off of Aaron real quick, the atmosphere of European basketball is something. I mean, obviously I'm an NBA wife, for whatever that's worth at this point. So I've experienced that pre-COVID. and experienced. My husband played for when he was in college. Pitt was good. We went to the tourney. We was the #1 seed. So I've experienced March Madness and Big East tournament at the Garden and stuff like that. But going to Europe and being a part of those atmospheres, oh my goodness, especially those big games, there's nothing like that in the world. Let me just give credit where it's due. The fireworks going off and the fans being there, painted faces, naked and crazy, and the flags, banners, the drums, and just it's just crazy energy. But moving on, that same energy can flip on you if you're on the wrong side of it. So there's been plenty of times where my husband would tell me, I don't want you to come to this away game. I was a traveling wife. I'm going wherever you going because I'm not sitting in this house with these kids. So I used to travel a lot to the games. And I think the most heated or the most, I forget what exactly your question was, like my most absurd, scary moment was definitely in Istanbul. Number one, my husband got spit on the court in Besiktas. They were playing away at Besiktas. You know the vibe out there. They will spit on you for sure. So they spit on my husband when he was on the court. So I'm hot. So I was hot that this even happened. But this was the year of the coup in Turkey. So we waited to go overseas. We got there. The coup happened. Well, the coup happened before we went, but then things were supposed to settle down. So we went, was not settled. There was tanks driving through the street. We were staying in our apartment was like in a tall building. There was military helicopters going by the building back and forth all day, flying really low. The glass was shaking. It was terrifying. So I gathered the kids, had to fly back to the States, leave Brad there. Bombs were going off in neighboring cities. One went off at the Besiktas Stadium, which was probably 20 minutes from us. You could hear it, the bomb go off where my husband was at. Thank God we weren't there at that time. So like a fool in love, I decided to come back for Christmas to visit him for 2 weeks. Right, I know. I decided to go back, and he's super low key. He didn't really want to go out and do anything. I'm like, it's New Year's. This was New Year's, not Christmas, obviously. So I'm like, it's New Year's. We got to go do something. So we went to eat, and we waited till after midnight to feel safe enough to go out because the older guys, like the Turkish guys, were kind of looking out for us. Like, don't do this, don't do that. But there's like a place where a lot of Americans go, and I wanted to go. We had no kids. I'm like, it's after midnight. Yeah, let's do it. On the way, we're in the Uber with another one of his teammates and his wife. On the way, we get close, like a block away from the club, and we see the streets just swarming with people. And the Uber driver said, "Get down." So we get down. The people are running. It's freezing cold. Nobody has on jackets. People are jumping into the Bosphorus. Come to find out, there was a shooting at the club, a mass shooting at the club. A guy dressed up like Santa Claus came in there and shot up the club. That we were going, the club next to the one we were actually going to go to. But yeah, it was a block away. It was terrifying. And
it was like an Ortakoy or something.
Exactly. Yep.
Rain, I think, one of them clubs like that.
Rain. It was Rain. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So rain, something like that. That was my scariest moment, like leaning down in an Uber in Istanbul on New Year's, watching people jumping into the Bosphorus. I think nothing really could touch that for me. I was like,
Rita, can you tell us your story?
So kind of going off of what Michelle said, Stephen and I have spent 5 years in France, and the time that we were there is when there was a lot of terrorist activity. I mean, there was the newspaper one, the Charlie,
Aribe.
Yeah, and there was the Paris attack at the concert, and so we were in Gravelines, which is north, but I was in Paris 2 days before that mass shooting happened, very close to the cafes. And then there was the Belgium airport shooting. We were there at the same time, and that's the airport he flew out of for his Euro competitions. And I just remember, like, having conversations with him, like, what do we do when we go to the airport? Like, if a bomb goes off, we're going to get separated. So like, we need to like attach each kid, like, attach Bailey to one of us, and like having these like real conversations about what to do in a terrorist attack, because it was literally happening in the country we were in, like right where we are. And it was happening like every month at that time. And that was scary. And it was, kind of unbelievable, and adjusting to that. And then having, being in Greece, and, the culture in Greece, they're very passionate about basketball, and they light the flares, they smoke up the whole gym, and just navigating that. And that's kind of normal for me now. And so sometimes looking in, I'm like, that's not normal. So nothing too crazy, but just adjusting to being, in France during the heavy part of the terrorism.
I can tell you one of the things I used to hate as a player. I think it's changed a little bit since, but I used to hate coming out the locker room at halftime and the whole damn gym just be smoky, just foggy from all the smoke. It's like, what? This is crazy. I'm supposed to play in this? No, this is crazy. So before we get off this thing, I want to give you guys a chance to say whatever it is that you feel like you didn't get a chance to say. I want you to share your social media handles so we can tag you when we post this thing, so we can tag you. not for nothing, but that's all we're trying to.
Slide in our DMs, guys. Do not slide in our DMs.
No, that's not what this is about. So we'll start with you, Aaron.
Okay. I guess my advice to a young woman who wants to be a WAG or is planning to be is that you gotta be flexible. You have to be open-minded, and you gotta be able to roll with the punches. I like the other ladies, their careers and what they do, just like me, is flexible. Like, I wasn't a writer, but I had to find something to do. I had to find something that I love, because at the end of the day, like, your husband's gonna lose games. You're gonna be on a team that stuff isn't going right. And that takes a mental toll on your husband or boyfriend or whatever. And he's going to show his ass to you sometimes. So definitely, and it's understandable. So not saying that they're not entitled to that, because it's crazy being a professional basketball player in Europe as a foreigner, for sure. But it's also crazy to be connected to one. So you kind of got to find something, an outlet for yourself, whether it be your career, whether it be, I don't know, anything, working out, art, something, because there are going to be days where you're stuck in a small apartment, but you don't want to say jack diddly squat to that fool because he's tripping. And, and at that time, you can't differentiate like, oh, is he mad at me or is he mad, at the situation we're in. So definitely just finding an outlet, being able to adapt to that, and not being afraid to just get out and explore. That'll keep you sane, because you see a lot of, and you hear a lot of wives, struggling mentally.
Right. Rita, can we get your last take?
Yeah, I'll make it quick because I know we are running out of time. I think, kind of going off what Aaron said, be adaptable, be flexible. We moved home during a time that we thought we'd be overseas, so be ready for anything. Make sure you find your own thing, whether, like Aaron said, working out or whatever. But also, it doesn't mean your professional career has to be put on hold. Find a way for it, and stay off of the news articles and the social media comments, because you're going to make yourself crazy. Early on, I did not, and now I'm just like, whatever, say what you say, because it don't matter.
Right. Michelle, tap in.
Tapping in. I think that one piece of advice for European wives or women who are looking to do that is, number one, protect yourself. Know the laws where you're going. Try to connect with people to be prepared. Reach out. There's different outlets that, like the one Rita runs, that's a really good resource for women. And make sure you're making that commitment for somebody who's worth it. Like, that's the other part. People think, oh, you're with a basketball player. All these basketball players aren't getting money like that. Everybody's not living comfortably like that. And women are out here sacrificing and holding people down and taking the brunt of it. So make sure that you are riding for somebody who's going to ride for you. And when they are having those bad days, you guys can get back to a place that makes it all worthwhile. Because while it's in Europe, you're not on vacation. You're living there. you're acclimating it to the culture. You're raising children there, and you're sacrificing a lot of memories from back home, you know, to experience this with your spouse. So make sure it's worth it. That's my last bit of OG advice.
Ladies, we want to thank you for giving us the time and opportunity to get your guys' take, your experiences that you all had over in Europe. We really appreciate you guys coming on the show.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining EuroSteppin podcast.
Thought it was a joke, what they still playing games for? Holes in my denim, never holes in my game, no. You won't be just like me, they don't love